How happy are you with the way the salary cap's gone up? Is it gone up enough in your mind?
Well, there's actually two questions there. One is, how happy are we that there's a salary cap at all? And the answer is not, because everybody understands this, but the purpose of a salary cap is to place an artificial upward limit on what players get paid, which is below what the owners would otherwise pay. That's the whole purpose of it. So it's not good. I also have long believed it's not good for the promotion and marketing of the game, and we know from baseball it's clearly not essential for the success. In terms of how the cap has functioned in connection with expectations over the last several years, there have been a number of problems, including the Canadian dollar, and also including that, the cap is predicated on the club spending at the midpoint, more or less. And if most of them are spending above the midpoint, that creates escrow all by itself. Canadian dollar is beginning to climb a little bit. We expect some revenue increases this year, so hopefully we'll see a major turn for the better over the course of this coming season.
There's an idea out there that the PA doesn't want players to leave any money on the table. Connor McDavid apparently left a little bit on the table when he got his $100 million.
You mean an individual player contract?
An individual.
No. What we want is for players to understand in an individual situation what the atmosphere is, what their bargaining rights are now, what their bargaining rights might be a year or 2 or 5 in the future, where they want to live, on what team and for what coach they think they want to play, and then to make the best judgment they can, because some players are going to be willing to say, look, all I want is a 1 or a 2 year contract. The time I really want to negotiate is after that. Others are going to say, I want the security. And we don't attempt to micromanage what players negotiate. Now, if somebody will ask us or ask staff, if I get contract for $10, is that maximizing what my value is, or do you think it's a little short, and if so, by what amounts, and how do you come up with that? We will tell them. But that's an individual player decision along with his agent. We don't get into the middle of that. You have individual bargaining for a reason. And when athletes, and this is true in all 4 of the sports so far as I know, certainly in baseball, when they consider what kind of a contract they want, there are a myriad of factors which go into it which don't necessarily relate to what's the top dollar amount on the line.
What impact, if any, does the first $100 million player in the cap era mean to the union?
Well, obviously, it's a benchmark that you look to. It's something that is good to see, and we hope there'll be a few more as time goes on. I'm sure there will be. Having said that, there aren't too many people like him. At least not that I've seen.
Is the cap inflator versus escrow debate one of the most, I wouldn't say divisive, but is that something that's discussed a lot amongst the players themselves? Because you have guys that are already signed versus guys looking for new contracts, and I'm sure they have very different perspectives on which. Of
course, whenever you have a bargaining unit in which some players have long-term agreements and others are negotiating, there's a bit of a natural tension between the players who want to hold down what future contracts would be a little bit, because they argue we then might get a lower escrow on their own contracts, and players who want maximum flexibility to bargain. And that includes certainly on numbers, but it also includes the number of teams that might be able to make an offer, the length of potential contract, and all the rest of it. That said, unions face in the ordinary course all kinds of differing interests among their members. And the job of the union is to work through that. You encourage discussion, you encourage debate. If players want to argue, you let them argue. And eventually they come to a conclusion as to what's best. This year was an odd year, but it made it easier to hold down the escalator because you had expansion, and that takes up some of the slack in the system and provides some more fluidity.
How many players, if any, have come to you or come to the union and say they want to play in the Olympics despite the NHL's decision?
Despite the NHL's decision? Well, I think the short answer is any player who thought he had an opportunity to be on a team, if asked, would say they would like to play on it and can we do something about it? And then you discuss what the options are in the circumstance. There's no secret about that. Players believe that playing the Olympics is important for all kinds of reasons, but not the least of which is pride of country and patriotism, and that matters. And we've got players from all kinds of different countries that obviously are in the NHL. You all know that.
Any update on say a player like Alex Ovechkin or others that decide to go, what the ramifications of that would be?
We've done the work, and we discuss that with the player and with his representative, but we don't discuss it publicly. But it is an individual club decision as to whether he would go.
And what do you see as the near future of events like the World Cup of Hockey?
Well, I would like to believe that we are moving into an era in which there would be a whole series of international events that we would do jointly with the NHL that would really expand the game and open up new markets and create new opportunities and all the rest of that. I would be less than honest, however, if I suggested that the Olympic decision the NHL made, and they made it unilaterally when everything was in place, does not raise some serious questions.
Have the players been paid now from the last World Cup?
They have been paid the prize money and the stipends and so on. We have actually just about finished all the accounting, because this is something when you pay out a net proceeds number that you have to have all the receipts in, you have to have all the expenses paid, you have to do all the rest of that. And the best guess we have now is that they'll be paid sometime the first half of next month.
Well, there's been a lot of the big contracts, whether it be Marleau, Price. They've been very bonus heavy, and there's been
signing bonus heavy.
Yes, there's been speculation that that's because of maybe future labor unrest. Do you make that same conclusion?
But my judgment is that players would be foolish not to take into consideration the possible outcomes when the contract expires or if either party terminates it early. I mean, they have to take that into account.
Anton Thun and a couple other agents have said that there's a group of players that are unhappy with the leadership. What do you make of that? And I'm sure you've read those comments, and what's your response to that?
The short answer is that it's a complete democracy. Players can do whatever they want to do, and I mean what I'm about to say quite literally. They want to change executive directors and staff 3 times a week, they can do it. What we do whenever we hear from players is reach out to them, talk to them, indicate that they can come to the office at our expense, or we'll fly out and meet them, and you talk through the issues. You know, that said, we've had executive board meetings, we've had a lot of conversations. It's not something which concerns me. In a large-scale sense. In a short-scale sense, obviously you would want all players to understand and be on board. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if this was asked already, but...
if it was, do I have to answer?
I'll revert to him.
Okay.
The question was brought up to me that in basketball, guys have got the maximum amount allowed under the salary cap. Question is, do you see the day where that happens in hockey?
I'm not sure I understand the question. You mean the individual maximum?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it will, but the dynamics are different between the two sports. You're dealing with vastly fewer players. You're dealing with vastly more revenue. I mean, the NHL's revenues have fallen way behind the other sports. Basketball has exploded, and we used to be maybe 20% behind, and now it's it's 50% or more behind. And so you would see that there's more fluidity in the system over there to do that. You also have another difference, and that is that I think it's fair to say that most people would agree a single basketball player can have more of an impact on his team and season than any single hockey player can, no matter how good he might be. Hockey, one of the things I've learned in spades since in the several years I've been here is this sort of really is the ultimate team sport. You can't win this by yourself. It's not possible.
So to go on one of your points, what are some of the ways that hockey can make up that bridge? You said it was gone from 20% to 50%.
Or something more than that. You know, basketball is somewhere between 6.5 and 7 million, and we're hovering below 4.5.
So what are the frontiers that hockey has?
I'm going to have you ask Gary about that, but from our standpoint,
yeah,
I think the international markets are the key. I mean, look, there's only 2 ways to raise revenue. 3 ways. You can charge your existing customers more money. It's going to be pretty hard to sell more tickets at the ACC at the moment, for example. You can go get new ones, or you can do both. We are, at least I certainly believe, pretty well situated to take advantage of international markets, and I think there has to be a lot of effort put in. I think there has to be a lot of investment that the NHL ownership is willing to put in, and we'll see if they do that.
Is the fact that they're going to play exhibition games in China a step towards that direction?
Yes, we'll see whether it's a big step or a baby step or the only step, but yes.
The next CBA, would you make sure that the Olympics are written in as part
Next CBA is like the last one. The players will make those judgments at the time based on the available options. There is a myth out there that collective bargaining is about equity or fairness or justice or doing the right thing. And I'm not saying any of those things are irrelevant. Certainly they're not. But in bargaining, the options you choose from is the best deal you can get from the owners, or not returning from the lockout or staying out on strike. It's a binary choice. And the players have to make that judgment on an ongoing basis. And there will be a raft of things involved in the next collective bargaining round, whether it's in 2 or 3 years or in 5 or 6 or later than that. You'll have salaries, you'll have cap issues. I'm pretty sure there'll be issues relating to health care. Pretty sure there'll be issues relating to pension. There may be rules, there may be travel, there may be all kinds of things that are out there. The Olympics would certainly be one, but I think it would be a mistake to isolate it. Okay? Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.